Greetings loyal subscribers and honoured guests. So as you can see, I'm starting a new series today. All through my life I've been an avid gamer, and this doesn't just apply to playing games but also immersing myself in the whole culture of gaming. I started reading gaming magazines from a very young age. I'm not sure how young exactly, but it must have been around 6 years old. I would buy magazines with my pocket money, and the titles of these would change over the years, but they included stuff like Commodore Format and PC Zone, Dreamcast magazine, Super Play, many different titles, and of course as the years go by I have also picked up gaming books. This has really exploded in popularity and the quantity of books coming out, I'd say over the last 20 years ago, because it coincided with the ability for people to more easily publish their own books, either using websites where they upload their PDF and get it made print on demand, or just by fairly cheap publishing methods these days. And for me, this sort of thing really started with the books of Jeremy Parish, the GameSpite journals. But nowadays there are many projects appearing with the help of crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter. And on this first episode I'd like to talk about a recent book that I did acquire through a Kickstarter campaign, and it is called It Only Did Everything, the Unofficial Complete History of the PlayStation 3 by Sandeep Rai. A little bit of history before I actually show you the book itself and sort of give a mini review. I haven't entirely finished reading it myself, but I have read a decent chunk of it, so I can give you my sort of early review or first impressions. But anyway, Sandeep Rai originally came up with a series of books about the Vita called the Vita Years, and then another chap called Andrew Dickinson sort of borrowed the same format with permission of Sandeep, and he did the Dreamcast Years, which is still going on. Dreamcast Years 2 came out recently, and there is plans for a third one. Eventually Sandeep did combine all 3 volumes of the Vita Years into one bigger hardback book, and that was called Vita Means Life. And now he's done the same thing for the PS3, but there was never sort of individual volumes by year for this one. He's just gone straight to an all-in-one nice hardback book about the entire history of the PS3 all-in-one book. So anyway, that's the intro. I'm going to switch over to the document cam now, and we can take a look at the book in more detail. Right, so hopefully you can hear me. I've got my Yeti microphone set up at a slightly strange angle so that I can show you this on the document cam, but my voice should hopefully still pick up. In fact, I'm going to move the Yeti to a better angle so that you can hear me. Anyway, so yeah, this is the book itself. Let's have a little look at the back first and read what it says. Of all of Sony's consoles, the PS3 was the first and only time where it felt like PlayStation were on the ropes. It was never going to be easy to top the success of the PS2, given that it was the best-selling console of all time, but Sony's hubristic attitude entering the PS3 generation made matters worse and cost them the goodwill at a time when they faced intense competition. Despite the initial setbacks, the PS3 was the home of some truly stellar and memorable games, such as the Uncharted series and The Last of Us, and it marked a period when Sony was innovating with new products and services such as the PlayStation Network and PlayStation Home. This book explores the full history of the system and includes interviews with developers and retrospectives on the games that defined the console. TooOldForGaming.com. So yeah, that's the sort of brief summary of it. And you can see the book is split up into 3 main sections really. The section that I'm still reading through is the story, which I'll show you in a minute, but it covers all the major sort of highlights and lowlights of the PS3's lifespan. And then there's a very brief section on sort of concept art and the early design of the controller. You'll remember the sort of infamous boomerang controller that never came to fruition really. And then there's a few interviews, and then there's retrospectives on specific games. But let's start having a look at some of this stuff. So in this early section, there are sort of recurring types of article. So it goes through each sort of E3 conference blow by blow, and sort of gives you the lowdown of where Sony was and what Microsoft was doing, and also Nintendo, and then it will show you the notable games of each E3. So this is the first one from 05, and you can see games like Devil May Cry 4, or the early sort of demo of what would be the next Gran Turismo game, and Heavenly Sword and Motorstorm. So that was back when the PS3 was sort of first being shown off to the first time. And as you can see, it's really nicely laid out with some very readable text. It's a good size, and it's a good neat font, and there's lots of pictures and illustrations throughout, and the whole book is printed on some very nice thick glossy paper. So, and then after each bit on each E3, you get this meanwhile section, briefly summing up where Nintendo and Microsoft were in the market as well. So it's easy to forget really that it was a struggle for Sony with the PS3 for many reasons, not least of which in the early days they couldn't make enough consoles to really cover the demand for the pre-orders, and also the fact that the PS3 was hugely expensive at the time, which didn't do it any favours compared to the Xbox 360, which took off to an early lead. But as the book covers, Microsoft did run into their own issues eventually, like the Red Ring of Death and other problems. There's the boomerang controller. And then it sums up that they vastly overpriced the console because they packed too much in it really, including the PS2 emulation and the Blu-ray drive and other such features that just sort of almost priced them out of the market. But over time they would re-release new versions of the PS3 which chopped out certain features and made it more cost effective, upsetting certain fans such as myself, because I would have really used the PS2 backwards compatibility if it had been there. But I actually came to the PS3 fairly late myself. It wasn't till the release of Metal Gear Solid 4 that I eventually picked one up with a bonus. But anyway, let's keep going. There are other sections in here that keep coming up. There's the launch games. So yeah, it's a pretty average selection of games really. Nothing really outstanding, to be honest with you. That's part of the reason I didn't jump in. And also just the cost meant that I couldn't really afford to get one straight away. So yeah, as you can see, the early part of the story is mostly the E3 conferences, but eventually I'm looking for one now. And then there's the unveiling of stuff like PlayStation Home, which I never really bothered with. By the time I started looking into PlayStation Home, it was pretty much being stopped already. But this is the other bit that I wanted to talk about. They've got these Battle of the Holidays section, which showed what each console manufacturer was doing in the holiday season. So you can see Nintendo released Super Mario Galaxy, Microsoft had Halo 3, and Sony released Uncharted Drake's Fortune. So yeah, there's loads to read in here about the Blu-ray drive itself. GTA, I had forgotten that when GTA 4 was announced, for example, it was a Microsoft Xbox 360 exclusive for a while, and that included the expansions, but eventually it did come to the PS3 as well. Into 08. And pretty much I'll jump to more or less where I've got to now, which it covers stuff such as the first reveal and launch of PS Plus, which of course is still going strong now, and the rise of online gaming, and the fact that pretty much all the major publishers started including online passes with their games. So which meant if you didn't buy the game brand new, you had to pay extra just to be able to play the multiplayer mode online. But that is thankfully something that has fallen by the wayside now, that the publishers don't really need to do it anymore. It was a pain as well, because it meant if you bought a pre-owned game, then yeah, you didn't get the full product. So this is where I've just got to. This is the notorious story of the PlayStation Network being hacked, and pretty much why it all came to pass, which I didn't really know. It all stemmed from the fact that Sony removed Linux as an option from their operating system, which sparked the hackers trying to break into the system, which they eventually did, and eventually it led to an outage of PS Plus for 24 days, which was really serious. It cost Sony tons of money, not least of which they had to give away free games as a sort of make good to customers when they eventually came back. So yeah, that's pretty much where I've got to. I've got a little bit past here. I've read this one. This is where I've stopped. So the story goes on a bit further, but I've nearly got through that section now. And then there are the interviews with people, the director of PlayStation Home, for example. And then towards the back of the book, we'll actually get into the specific retrospectives about particular games. There's one for Mass Effect, which of course started off as a Microsoft published title exclusive to the Xbox 360, but eventually Electronic Arts acquired the entire trilogy and it came out on PS3 as well, and it came in a quite nice box set with all the DLC included up to Mass Effect 3, I think. Yeah, and then you can see GTA, Final Fantasy 13, which I really love actually. Final Fantasy 13 gets a lot of hate from gamers, but I really enjoyed it. But it gets criticised for being linear, which it is in the early hours, but it really opens up into an open world game towards the end. And to be honest with you, pretty much all Final Fantasies are linear for the first chunk of them, and other JRPGs in general. It's just how the genre is. They open up the further you get in. So I've got Infamous, yeah, Heavy Rain, all the sort of significant titles that made an impact on the PS3 are in here. So it's a really good book. Little Big Planet, God of War 3, on-rail shooters, and it's got articles on stuff like the PS Move as well. But anyway, I'm going to switch over to the other camera now and do my little summary. So there we go. That's It Only Did Everything, the unofficial history of the PS3. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's something a bit different for me to make. I've got a lot more books to show you. In regards to this particular book, at the moment it's not available to the general public, unfortunately. It was sold via Kickstarter, and you have to have been a backer to get a copy. And I'm not entirely sure what the plans are to make more available for general sale. I would imagine though that Sandeep will reprint them and make more available at some point, or perhaps release a revised version, because he has made more available of the other books that he's written, if I recall correctly. So yeah, let me know what you thought of this, and if you want to see more sort of book flick-throughs and mini reviews. And I'm also intending to do this with some magazines. I've got some old issues of Superplay that I'm going to do. Unfortunately, I haven't got issue 1 or 2, and they're quite expensive, so I don't know if I'll have picked those up. But I have got issue 3, which is a special Christmas issue. So we're coming up to the Christmas season in a few months, of course. So that might be one that I show off on the channel. I don't think many American gamers or viewers will be all that familiar with Superplay magazine. I expect some of them did import it or have picked it up in the meantime, because it's very well regarded, and you can just read it online, of course, on PDFs, but it's not as well known as stuff like Nintendo Power over there, of course, because that was the big magazine that you had for Nintendo stuff. But anyway, I'm going to stop prattling on now, and yeah, if you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like and drop a comment, maybe subscribe to the channel. I'm not sure what I'm doing next. I am actually planning a sort of series of PS3 game reviews, but I haven't actually organised anything for definite yet. But you can look forward to stuff like that, and the next episode of Cover Tape Chaos Zapped, the next generation. But yeah, I'll see you on the next video, and in the meantime, take care.